Welcome to the webcast today on which AEC Collaboration Solution is right for you. My name is Jatin, and I am an AEC consulting lead here at VinZero A2K. I've been asked to go through with you a brief overview of the different AEC collaboration options available to you within the Autodesk Construction Cloud environment. We will first start by understanding what the Autodesk Construction Cloud is. From there, we will cover the different options available within this platform, namely Autodesk Docs, BIM Collaborate, and BIM Collaborate Pro. I will give a brief demonstration of each of these solutions in action so you can get an idea of which option you envisage your team using. There will be a short Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to jump in with some questions at that stage. Before we get into the main topics, just a brief overview of what VinZero is and does. We are a solutions organization that fosters innovation through delivering software and hardware solutions, consulting, training, development, and managed services. We have become a trusted advisor to our clients due to our breadth and depth of our service offering and technical expertise, our commercial agility, and understanding of customer service. Why VinZero? We have an excellent ANZ footprint with offices in large parts of Australia and New Zealand. We're actually one of the largest Autodesk partners in the world and considered by businesses we deal with to be a trusted advisor. So we offer services such as data management, BIM implementation, consulting services, CAD management services, on-site and online learning, and customized content creation. The majority of VinZero A2K staff are from the industry, so we understand the challenges our clients face, and therefore we can deliver solutions through a combination of experience and innovation. A little bit about me. My name is Jatin Sharma. I have over 7 years experience in the AEC industry as a BIM manager, designer, and technical instructor. Currently, my role at VinZero is that of an AEC tech consulting lead, and my software skills include AutoCAD, Revit, the Autodesk Construction Cloud portfolio, Navisworks, Autodesk Format, 3ds Max, and Assemble. I actually initially completed a Bachelor of Science majoring in geology and physics before accidentally stumbling into the building industry, initially starting off as a drafty and transitioning into a Revit certified professional, and from there a BIM consulting lead. A little bit of an agenda of what we'll be going through. So as I mentioned previously, we'll first start by going over a high-level overview of the ACC environment. Then we will investigate the Autodesk Docs, BIM Collaborate, and BIM Collaborate Pro offerings within this environment and how they can help facilitate AEC collaboration workflows. And at the end, there will be a Q&A session. Okay, now that we've done the introductions and the agenda points are done, we can get into the actual meat of the webinar. So let's start by going over a high-level overview of what the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform actually is. So I like to think about the Autodesk Construction Cloud as a unified platform hosted on cloud servers, which facilitates a suite of AEC solution offerings. So these offerings connect workflows, teams, and data across the entire project lifecycle, all in one common data environment. The offerings your organization should utilize is dependent on your role and deliverables within the AEC project delivery ecosystem. So as you can see, these offerings extend beyond the design phase. For more information on the workflows such as plan and build and operate, I have done some webinars recently on those topics, and we'll be conducting some more before the end of this year, particularly on takeoff, build, and some things around operate as well. So please feel free to get in touch for those links. They'll definitely be done by the end of this year. Our focus today will be on the design phase. So depending on your organization's role within design, you can leverage different aspects of the Autodesk Construction Cloud to help you collaborate both internally within your organization or with external consultants. This is a good graphic to explain this concept further. So for example, if you were a designer and reviewer, then you need to be looking at BIM Collaborate Pro. If you are a reviewer, rather than someone who's part of the actual design authoring process, then you should be looking at BIM Collaborate, okay, the one over here, or Autodesk Docs. So just a note, if you have a license of AEC Collections already, then you have access to Autodesk Docs. This is something available to you right now, so you should take advantage of this. Okay. So now that we have a bit of an overview, let's dive a little deeper into the solutions themselves, starting with Autodesk Docs, which underpins everything within the ACC platform and serves as that vital CDE. Again, this is available to everyone that has an AEC Collections license. So this is relevant for all project team members, and it allows for document storage in the cloud, document sharing, and document control and process management for CAD and BIM. Let's start with document control. So project teams often rely on a single source of truth to speed up the collaboration process and improve document control. This involves, number one, applying a solid folder structure where documents can be published. Number two, protecting those folders with permissions, ensuring that data is accessed by the right users and at the right time. And number three, never losing access to old document versions when newer versions are released. And speaking of document versions, understanding how project designs change over time is critical to the review process. Both 2D PDFs and 3D models are tracked within Autodesk Docs via the version comparison tool, meaning that project users remain informed at all stages of the design. Now, obviously, having a folder structure and permissions in your CDE only goes so far. To enhance this further, we use document workflows. So the approvals tool facilitates the submission of a set of documents to another user, like, for example, a design or engineering manager for their review and approval, so that the documents are fit for use. Approved documents can then be released to other project users, while rejected documents remain as is until they are resolved. Another tool available is transmittals, which creates an official digital record where documents are electronically delivered to another user. These documents are typically those that are approved for use, so the transmittals and the approval tools, fairly go hand in hand. Okay, so let's go into a bit of a demonstration of what Autodesk looks like and those features in action. So I'm going to open up my Docs environment. You can see at the top here the name of my project. So I've got a demo sandbox project open. On this upper left-hand corner is the module that we're on within the Autodesk Construction Cloud. If I click on this little drop down, you can see all the other modules which are available to me, like we saw in the slide earlier on within the ACC overview. So we're going to be going over Docs, Design Collab, and Model Coordination, but there's also things such as Takeoff, Build, Cost Management, etc., etc. And again, we'll be doing webinars on those before the end of this year. Okay, so we're in our Docs environment. And in this environment, you can see that I've got a folder structure here. Okay. this folder structure has been created in accordance to the ISO 19650 standards, okay? So that we have different containers where information gets stored, and there is a permission system that is being enforced here. So let's see what that looks like. If I go into this published area, I've got one folder for architecture, okay? So if I click on these three little dots and I go into permission settings, you can see that although we have this common data environment where any user can jump into the project, only those with the appropriate level of permissions are able to make changes, view, and edit these PDFs. So for example, here we've got our project admins, and that's fine. They have managed level access. And then we have the BIM manager, who should also have managed level access. Then we have the building services engineer, the electrical discipline, landscape, etc., and they all only have view level access to this folder. This means that they can jump in and they can take a look at these PDFs, that's fine, but they can't make any edits to those PDF or upload different versions. The only team that's able to do that is architecture, okay? And that's because they're in their own container folder. So this is what we're talking about when we're saying we're protecting these folders with permissions, having an established folder structure, and the data is being accessed by the right users at the right time. If we kind of scroll across, we can see the review statuses that these documents have gone through. And in this column, we can see some versioning, okay? So if I wanted to, I could click on this versioning, and I could see the history that this file has gone through. Initially uploaded as of 2021, and now we're in September 2022. So each version is available if we want to backtrack, okay? We can make previous versions, we can make them current, download that as a source file, export, or make a copy if we need to. So we're confident that we're always having the right level of information at any given time within this common data environment. If I click on this PDF, I'm able to view it within the online viewer within the ACC environment, okay? So I can scroll in and out. I can take a look at the different design which is available. I've got markups, which is available for me on the right-hand corner, okay? And what I can also do is I have a comparison tool at the top here. What this lets me do is it lets me visualize the differences between this version and any previous version of the same document or another document entirely. So I can click on this compare tool, and I might say I want to see the differences between the initial version and the latest version. And I might then click on compare. From there, the ACC platform will do its thing, and it will give me differences between the two versions. So version 5 is in red, version 1 is in blue, okay? So these are the differences between the two. So in version 5, this area has been edited, not so in version 1, and I can turn on and off those particular layers. Okay, now this is not just for your PDFs as well, okay? So if I jump into the architecture folder under work in progress, I can do the same for a DWG file, okay? So I've got a DWG file here, and I can open this. And you can see I'm able to scroll in and out of this DWG file. I can, if I want to, click on this layers tool and turn layers on and off if I wish. Okay, and of course, I've got available for me my markups as well. And again, this comparison tool is available for your 2D models as well. So if I wanted to, I can take a look at the version 1 of this particular layout, hit the compare tool, and it's going to compare and show me the differences between when I did the initial design to the latest design. Okay. And lastly, it works exactly the same for your 3D models as well. In this case, I've got a Revit file. So we can open this up. The only feature which is not quite available yet, but I believe it's in the pipeline to be released soon, is the ability to mark up 3D models. So you can see here the markup tool is not available, but you can still use the compare tool to compare this model with its previous iterations, if you like, as well. So if I hit this compare tool, I'm able to choose, perhaps, let's say, maybe we'll go with version 4, version 5, either or, and I'm able to go backwards as I want to. Okay. All right. Next, let's talk about the BIM Collaborate offering. The BIM Collaborate offering is for your design reviewers and consumers who want to review and comment on models, check federated models which have been published in the cloud for any clashes, or create issues from those clashes and assign it back to relevant teams as necessary. Okay. So one of the most important features here is the ability for users to visualize aggregated models from architects, MEP, and structural firms in one coordinated space. It grants them the tools to essentially link models together, saving them as views, which they can recall at a later time. This means that they no longer must rely on the design authoring team to perform these tasks for them. Okay. It also grants these non-authoring stakeholders the power to participate in the automatic clash detection process, checking newly published models, and visualize clashes in a matrix where they can filter by models or saved views. They can use the clash matrix to drill down into specific clashes where they can raise issues that are assigned back to their design authoring team. And speaking of coordination issues, issue management is a key component to continuous collaboration. There's no need to wait for the next coordination meeting to assign issues to project team members. Easily tag clashes as issues, assign them to the appropriate stakeholder for resolution, and input a start and end date. Okay, so let's go through a live representation of what we just talked about within the ACC environment. So I'm going to jump back onto my project, the same project here. Okay, so currently right now we've been in Docs. We've put our models in here. So it's now time for the reviewers to take a look at those models in a federated space. Okay, so I'm going to go up to the top to this left-hand corner, and I'm going to click on this little picker, and I'm going to move to model coordination. When I do so, it's going to load up the project and it's going to load the latest coordination data. And what it's done here, the view that we're in at the moment is a federation of all the different models that have been posted in this project. Okay, and where this comes from is actually comes from Autodesk Docs. So if I jump back into Autodesk Docs, which I've popped open here, I've chosen a folder for, in this case, it might be shared, it might be in coordination, it might be in published. And I've said every single time a model gets put into this folder, okay, all these models that are being put into the folder while teams are collaborating, I want the system to take all of those models and start clashing against them, okay? And have those results for us. So what I can do in this case is that I could go into clashes on this left-hand side and take a high-level overview of all the different models and their clash results, okay? And I can click on each one of these slides if I wanted to, okay, to take a closer look, or I can go back to model and I can choose the two models that I'm interested in, or even more than two if I would like. In this case, I could open up fire and electrical, okay, within the services model. And I could go open in viewer. And what that's going to do is that it's going to clash those two models against each other and create this model aggregation for me. So at the beginning, we can see the two models that we have. If I wanted to, I could save this view as a custom view so that the next time I jump into this project, I can go straight to this particular view without having to go through the other screens. I can click on this clashes button on the left-hand side. And what it's now going to do is that it's going to go through the clash detection for me. So this is the primary model, which we've picked. And if I wanted to, I could change them. The primary model is clashing with the fire model. And we're grouping it by object. If we wanted to, we could change this from object to other constraints, levels, etc., etc. Not only that, we can now set some guidelines around the clash detective as well. So if I click on these three little dots, I can choose whether I want to clash within a particular range, above a value, or below a value, and what units I need them to be in. If I wanted a closer look at any of these clashes, I simply need to click on them, and it's going to zoom in for us to take a look. If I want to know exactly what this particular element is, I'm able to do so by turning on properties and clicking on the particular areas that I want to, okay? As I go through, I can choose multiple different areas as I wish. When I'm ready, I can simply click on the different clashes, group them together, and create an issue. And I can select a spot where I want to place my marker, and it's going to start creating an issue for me. Okay. We can give it a title if we want to. So this comes across as default, but we can quickly change that if we would like. We can change the type of clash. Right now it's defaulted to coordination, but it could be around building codes, client feedback, design, etc., etc. I can change the description if I want to. The assign to is important because I can choose what role or person that I need this issue to be addressed, or rather who's going to be addressing this particular issue. So for example, I might assign it to architect. The important thing here is that when you select the role or the person, the best practice is to go by role. Every single person who's in that role gets a notification that an issue has been created and they need to take a look. Okay, so if you do it by user, you have to be very careful. But if you do it by role, it means that everyone who's part of that role gets access to the issue. There are more eyes on this issue, which leads to a faster resolution process. Next, there is something what we call watches. Okay, what watches is it's for people or roles who want to know that this issue exists or need to know that this issue exists, but aren't actually part of the resolution process. So, for example, if you believe this issue is going to push out the design timeline, you can set the watcher for example, a project manager who then needs to be aware that this issue exists, but isn't necessarily involved in solving the actual problem. Okay. You can give this issue a due date, a start date, a root cause, and there's a photo as well. So when the email gets sent, there is a link to a photo so that anyone who's been assigned this issue gets a quick snapshot of what they'll have to deal with. From there, there's also an activity log of all the activities that is happening in this particular issue. So as people are responding, you have access to that entire timeline. Okay. So from there, also important to note that the issues that you create here are also accessible within Autodesk Docs. So if I am in Autodesk Docs and I go into issues, you can see that the issue that we just created is being listed, and it's got the placement as well, as in where in that model that you've placed this particular issue. So if I was to click on it, you can see it's the issue that we've just created now. Okay, just another quick points within the model coordination area. The views section is over here. This is where all of our custom views that we would have created can be found in this space. So in models, if you were to, for example, choose those two particular views and you hit the save view, give it a name. Either make it private to only yourself or make it public for everyone to be able to view this. Give it a description and you can hit save view. And then now that it's been saved, it will appear in this view area here. So now, instead of having to go through this workflow where you're taking a look at the models, clicking on the ones that you want to look at, or looking at all of the clashes, you can go straight into views, click on this particular view, and it's going to take you to the space here. Okay, and you can create as many coordination spaces as you like. So if I click on this little picker here, I've got multiple other ones. So I've got one just for architecture, which is connected to the architecture folder, which I'll bring through just a second. So connected to this folder here, I've got one that's in the shared folder coordination space, which is the folder over here. And I've got one called the federated space, which is available in this coordination area here under model coordination. Okay. And the last quick note about model coordination is that you can even connect it to meetings. So what meetings lets you do is that you can create a meeting within this platform. You can connect it to something like Zoom or Outlook. So when you're sending out your invite, not Outlook, Teams, you can send out that invite and you can actually assign items and go through a live meeting process while looking at the particular views and the particular models and the particular issues, all within this one environment. Okay. Okay, next let's take a look at BIM Collaborate Pro. So the main difference between BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro is the ability to participate in design collaboration. So as such, this offering is really for your users who are part of the design authoring process using software such as AutoCAD, Revit, and Civil 3D. Okay. So the BIM Collaborate Pro solution is the recommended solution for designers wanting to collaborate with internal and external consultants, not only in Revit, but software such as Civil 3D and Plant 3D as well. In addition, the ACC infrastructure can facilitate workflows where your team uses more than one design authoring tool between Revit, Civil, and Plant 3D as well. So for example, you could have a project where multiple different authoring tools are involved, which is being used by different teams, either within your organization or with external consultants. Using BIM Collaborate Pro, everyone can be on the same page within a CDE environment and bring in different discipline models as needed for an efficient project delivery. Before we get into the live demonstration, I just want to touch on how design collaboration has been evolving, okay, particularly as it pertains to Revit and Revit workflows. So if you have used Revit before, you would have heard about or implemented something that we used to call Revit servers, okay? It's where users could connect to a server within an organization that hosted Revit centralized models, had an accelerator. You could have multiple users connecting into that server. And for larger organization, this extended to multiple services across different regions. So for example, if you had an organization that was between Australia and New Zealand, you could have a server in Auckland, you'd have a server in Adelaide, you'd have a server in Brisbane, okay? The problem with this is the hardware that's involved in implementing it, right? The limited collaboration between different teams across regions and with external consultants, and the slow data exchange to and from the server. This was particularly relevant when you had things like VPN involved in the process as well, okay? BIM Collaborate Pro eliminates all of those pain points while still allowing for collaborative workflows and providing extensive tools for project management and delivery. This is the reason why it's the recommended solution for design collaboration. You're paying one fee per year, and that fee is essentially covering the hardware requirement and also any other security environment, as well as being able to have your different teams that may be across different regions all connecting to a particular project, while still having these additional tools such as your model coordination, your common data environment, your document approvals, etc., etc. That's the reason why it's a recommended solution. Okay. So let's do a quick overview of what that looks like. For the authoring tool, I'll be using Revit. So we've done some webinars recently focusing on Plant 3D and Civil 3D and how it connects to BIM Collaborate Pro as well. So if you're someone who uses Civil 3D or Plant 3D and you want to know more about how that workflow works, then please get in touch with us and we can go through the webinar, give you a link, or even sit down and work through the process with you. Okay, so for me today, I'll be using Revit. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Revit 2022. And the first thing that I would do, okay, in fact, before I go into the project itself, I do want to set the scene. So for this particular workflow, I'll be using another project called Demo Project Autobahn over here. I might just get rid of these. So in this project as well, we've got our common data environment that's been triaged into different folder structure according to the ISO 19650 standard. So in this scenario, I'm going to pretend to be an architect, okay? And I'm going to be looking into the work in progress folder to see where the model is at, maybe make some changes and publish it back into the cloud, check it, and then release it to the other teams to review and implement into their own design authoring tool. Okay, so I'm going to be going into this O1 architecture folder here, which has that medical project. So going into Revit, I'm able to, instead of hitting the open button here or into recent files, I can connect straight into Autodesk Docs. When I connect straight into Autodesk Docs, what this lets me do is that it lets me connect to the cloud environment. This is the project that I'm in, and it's going through the folder structure to find our architectural model, just like what we see on our screen here. Okay. So once it's here, there's one very important note. It's saying this model is a work shared cloud model. That means that this is a Revit Central model in the cloud. If you ever see something else that says, along the lines of Revit Cloud model or, just a cloud model, it's not a Revit Central model. It's just been saved into the cloud. Okay, but it's not a Revit Central model. Okay. And I would just click on this and open up the project. I have it open already here on my screen. So I would go in here and I would start designing and I would make the required changes I want to. Once I'm ready, I would first check my published settings, okay, to check and see exactly what I'm about to, or rather what I'm wanting to share into the cloud, and also potentially with other teams as well. So I've got particular sheets and a particular view that I'm wanting to share. So not the entire project, not all my working ground floors, etc., but only the information that I want to share. Okay, that's what I want to upload into the cloud. So once I've checked this and it all looks okay, I would jump back in to this environment, click on these three little dots, and publish latest. When I do this, the project over here is going to get updated to a new version, but also whatever set that I've published is going to be captured in the design collaboration environment. Okay, so I'm going to go into design collaboration. And you can see here, under the O1 architecture team, we've got our published set. The published set here is directly correlated to the published set that we see here. Okay. So in here, I can click on these three little dots and I can extend this even further to see what all of the other teams have been doing. So Structure, MEP, Fire have been sharing and collaborating as well. And this gives me a quick project timeline of all the things that's happened so far. Okay. Now, if I wanted to share my work with the rest of the team, what I can do is I can click on Create a New Package. I can then take a look at my published set and just double check that everything I want to share is appropriately in this area. Okay, once I'm ready, I can select this published set and I can hit the Save button. Now, one of the other things you can do here, which is really cool, is that you can use the Compare tool here as well. Okay, so if I click on this published set, and if I go to compare, I could compare between this version and its earlier version so that I can double check and make sure that it is, what I want to share is exactly what it's showing on my screen. So I can hit the Save button here and I can save this package. And now I can hit the Compare tool and I can see the differences between the older version version 3 and version 4. So currently, there's no changes between the two, which means that I just need to make sure that someone has published the right version before I'm ready to share it with the opposing team. If I change it from V2 to V4, it's going to calculate those changes as well. And if I want to, I can show those changes on my screen. Okay. Once I'm happy with that, I can hit the share button. So when I hit the share button, I can give it a name and I can give it a description. Okay, for the other teams to review, and I can hit the share button over here. Cool. Once I've shared it, what actually happens is a copy of this file, or excuse me, the copy of these views and updates to the file get actually uploaded into Docs under the shared area here. But the key thing is that I wouldn't, if I was another consultant, I wouldn't link my model within the shared area. The reason why is because if, let's say I was structure, okay, I'm part of the structure team, I can see that the architecture team have shared a package. If I linked my Revit model with architecture under the copy of the shared area here, then I wouldn't have the ability to actually review what they're sending before bringing it into my own model, okay? Because I haven't actually linked the architecture model with my own in shared, but under consumed under my own structure consumed folder, what this lets me do is that I'm able to click on publish set, okay, that the architecture team have shared. I can take a look at what they're sending. I can compare between the last time they've sent me a model to the latest model that they're sending me now, ensuring that what's in their notes, what they're saying they're about to send is accurate. Once I know it's accurate, I can hit this consume button. When I hit this consume button, the copy of the architecture file in my own container folder, this version here, will update. And that will automatically get updated into my own Revit model as well. So I can hit the consume button and I can hit consume again. It gives me a warning saying, are you sure? And then once I've consumed it, it's going to go ahead and it's going to start changing versions. Okay. So that's a little bit on the workflows within the Revit environment. Okay. Again, if you do want to know workflows around Civil 3D and Plant 3D, it works in a similar fashion in the sense of publishing and sharing. But the one thing that is different is obviously how you're publishing your model into the cloud itself within the tool. Okay, so now we'll get into the Q&A side of things. So please feel free to ask any questions you would like on what we talked about today. You can just post it into the Q&A area, I believe, in Zoom, right next to, it's on the right-hand side of chat. Yes, Nazim, the recording will be made available. It will be, I think, it usually gets uploaded between, I don't know, like 24 to 48 hours. If you want a link on that, just there will be a snippet. There'll be another slide after this, which has an email address. You can just send across your email and we can send you that link. It will also be on YouTube. I've done this webinar in the past earlier on this year. So there is one recording available already that you can reference in YouTube as well. If you just look at, I think if you just type in the search within YouTube. Can BIM Docs Pro help with compliance, e.g. fire, BCA? Potentially, yes, Reza, but it would be a further conversation than this webinar. So if you do want to know a little bit more, it'll be really helpful for us if we can get in touch and we can actually sit down and go through that workflow with you. It just involves understanding your current environment as well. But yes, potentially. We are working in Revit, working cloud environment project. We're not using Docs for that, only BIM Collaborate Pro. So, sorry, I don't know who this person is, but it's an interesting question, actually. So we're working in Revit, working cloud environment project. We're not using Autodesk Docs for that, only BIM Collaborate Pro. Well, actually, you are using Autodesk Docs. You might not know it, but if we take a look at this environment, you have to actually place your file somewhere, at the beginning within the document management system for you to then be able to use design collaboration. So you might not be using it in the way that we're showing it right now, but you're definitely using it. And if you do have BIM Collaborate Pro, then you have access to Docs, Design Collab, and Model Coordination as well. Okay. Are you going to send us the link? Sorry, Josu, no, I won't be the one to send you the link. If you do want the link to this webinar, again, you can take a look on YouTube. It will be uploaded within 24 to 48 hours. But also, if you send us your email address, we can send you a link to that as well. Any support for Autodesk Inventor? It depends, Jack, on what you mean by support. So there are some workflows right now that do leverage Autodesk Inventor. However, to be completely frank, it's not at the level that you are probably envisaging. So what I mean by that is that you can put Inventor models into the Autodesk Construction Cloud, but there's lots of limited workflows there. The one workflow I've seen that works more well, I should say, than others is actually bringing the Inventor file, pinning it into Navisworks, and then bringing the Navisworks file into this environment. I hope that helps answer your question, by the way. Is there any connection with AConnect Procore or other collaborative platforms? Yeah, so that's a good question, Reza. So your question was, is there any connection with AConnect Procore or other collaborative platforms? So not necessarily. So the way that the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform wants to be leveraged is that it's that common data environment across the entire project lifecycle. So for things like AConnect and Procore, the direction you would be steered towards is around build, takeoff, and cost management. And there is going to be a release soon called the correspondence tool, which I think is in the development pipeline, that is kind of going bringing together all of those tools that's typically available in something like AConnect or Procore into this environment. A lot of it's here already via the build and cost management modules, and there's more that's coming on that space. And if you are interested, in learning more around the build and takeoff module, we are doing some webinars, I believe, late September, very early October, on how you can take all the design data that you accumulated here and push it downstream into the actual construction and operation process. Okay, I think I'll give it another minute in case anyone has any other questions, but I believe all the questions here have been answered so far. Yin, yeah, Joseph, yeah, I've noted down your email address. We'll try and send you a link to that as soon as possible. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I think that's all the questions today. Thank you so much for being part of the webinar. I'm just going to share my screen once more, just in case you want to note down this for all of our upcoming webinars. This is our link. And also, feel free to send an email through info@atktechnologies.com.au if you have any further questions, like what we talked about slightly earlier when you had some particular workflows and you want to see how that fits into the ACC platform, etc. You can send a link here. Oh, excuse me, you can send an email here and we'll be able to help out.